9:27 p.m. Group stalking by the state of California and criminal facilitation of group stalking by the state of California in concert with the people of the state. And like I stated, the people of the state includes the minions that I'm documenting. This is evidence of exactly what Tracy Randolph is doing on behalf of this government inside of the Upland Public Library in concert with employees such as Katie and Casey, Stephanie Ortiz. This is evidence against the people of the state while the entity is obsessively stalking. While the entity is obsessively stalking via Union Pacific, that company is going to be prosecuted with this very evidence while it's sounding train activity and while the government is threatening the life of an American citizen, stalking by helicopter, and the very impunity with which the entity acts with as it is flying over 20 and 30 times. And I'm documenting, and the entity is monitoring documentation and engaging in that pattern of conduct. That's exactly what's underway in directed light. This is impossible light activity, meaning light that is never occurring from what would be ordinary light, normal light. There's no light fixtures, there's no light that's that's in the middle of this courtyard, and light is not going to shoot horizontally to touch on the face of the museum. That's the Union Pacific as a means of audible activity and engineered light. Okay, where they have multiple shadows, the entity is aiming flashing light across this wall, and Union Pacific is a company with which I will use this evidence to prosecute that company, civilly, criminally and civilly. The entity is monitoring with the people of the state. This is also harassment while the entity is engaging ongoing noise and engineered light, molestation and ongoing harassment while you're stalking with noise as demons engaging in group stalking. All right, the entity is engaging in what is the creation of what is evidence while it's stalking me by helicopter. It is both evidence against the state of California. It is evidence against the people of the state. So the entity likes to provide evidence with which I will remind you, Stephanie Ortiz is going to federal prison, okay? The Fontana Police Department, who arrived pursuant to criminal summoning, that are engaging in what is harassment while they are monitoring with this entity, group stalking by helicopter. This is the exact criminal conduct that is underway inside of the Fontana Lewis Library while those psychopaths engage in what is obstruction of justice, and that is criminal summoning. That's the psychopath that is stalking you and then summoning the police to engage in more stalking because they are hostile to revealing their criminal conduct. Stephanie Ortiz is going to federal prison while you're witnessing my stalker, the state of California, fly in circles around me over and over and over again. This is the entity that likes to provide me the evidence, and so I'll remind you, all right? Sean Thrasher is going to federal prison, okay? This is the very criminal conduct that is underway on an ongoing basis while he is monitoring me while my panties are down with this government who is flying in circles over and over and over in directed light, impossible light activity while amplified audible activity is underway, and the demon-possessed people of the state who engage in surveillance inside of that Ovid Family Community Library. Oh, Sean Thrasher is going to federal prison, okay? The entity is engaging in what is criminal stalking and doing so on an ongoing basis, and this is the evidence that you and any ordinary target individual, you're going to submit this in court, and it is serving for what is federal prison of the people of the state who engage in kidnapping by the entity that's engaged in federal stalking, who engage in criminal defamation, who engage in the waging of what the criminal assertion of false allegations by an entity that is placing you under surveillance, stalking you, okay? Those demons are stalking while the entity is flashing directed light across the wall. Okay, multiple shadows this is all engineered light, and that's the entity that's providing that evidence. That's the idiot, the state of California. Satan is inferior. Satan is using a Muppet puppet. Okay, that's a puppet of Satan. That you can call it a Muppet of Satan, a puppet of Satan. The entity is engaging in what is the provision, in other words, of evidence against the very entity with whom that government is monitoring. And it includes demons that are manifesting directed light, demons that are group stalking in the path, demons that I'll identify by name, including those at the facilitating venues where I'm subject to surveillance and sexual violence. All right, where this directed light is inside of a bathroom, while my genitalia, my physical person is exposed, engaging in private activity, where the entity is amplifying impossible activity. The same exact pattern of conduct occurs inside of the doors where Stephanie Ortiz, the Fontana Lewis Library, she's going to federal prison. All right, the entity that acts with impunity, Stephanie Ortiz is acting with impunity, engaging in that criminal conduct that is already published with this very entity that's flying in circles over me by helicopter over and over again. This is the criminal conduct. That's the obsessed stalker that engages in criminal summoning. They're going to federal prison, and they belong in federal prison, okay? And it is the prosecution against what is Union Pacific. Audible activity while the entity is flying in circles around me at the Ontario Museum of History and Arts, engaging in what is criminal summoning by the entity. The demon-possessed Ontario Police Department are monitoring and group stalking with this entity as well, okay? That's why Jason Knighton and Lester Keys are going to federal prison, okay? The Ontario Police Department is engaging in surveillance, monitoring with this entity that's flying in circles over me at the Ontario Museum of History and Arts in engineered light. That's POC. That's the evidence against the entirety of an entity. And that's just an example of what this stupidity provides for. The people of the state are prosecuted. Okay, this is currently 9:33 p.m. and that's the entity's not going anywhere. That is a demon pacing back and forth. Pacing back and forth. I am the center of the universe. They place a fake sun and a fake moon over my head. Follow everywhere I go. Want to be where I'm sleeping. Want to go where I use the restroom. That's the obsessed stalker. That's terrorism. And that's what Stephanie Ortiz is going to federal prison for, because you don't get to engage in what is terrorizing and harassing an American citizen while you're engaged in federal stalking with the government that is stalking me, flying over and over and over and over my head by helicopter. No. You're going to federal prison for that. All right? This is POC. This is the documentation against the people of the state and the people in the state of California. It's 9:33 p.m.